The planet has been on fire before, frozen solid before, flooded, scorched, choked with gas. None of that needed us. So the real question is, are we actually making it worse? Or are we just the latest excuse? When Earth was young, it had no ozone layer, no breathable air, and a sky the color of rust. The climate then would kill every living thing on Earth today, instantly. And Earth did not care, not even slightly. Climate at its core is just the planet trying to balance energy. Heat comes in, heat goes out. When something disrupts that balance, the planet adjusts. It has always adjusted. Over millions of years. Very, very slowly. So what are the natural things that actually change Earth's climate? First, the sun itself. The sun's energy output is not constant. It fluctuates, always has. Solar cycles roughly 11 years long cause small but real changes in how much energy Earth receives. And over hundreds of millions of years, the sun has been getting gradually brighter. About 30% brighter than when Earth formed. This means ancient Earth should have been completely frozen under a faint young sun. It wasn't. Life thrived anyway. Scientists call this the faint young sun paradox. They say it's mostly solved. They sound slightly nervous when they do. The answer involves greenhouse gases, specifically very high levels of CO2 and methane in the early atmosphere keeping things warm, which is interesting, because greenhouse gases keeping Earth warm is a feature, not a bug. Without any greenhouse effect at all, Earth's average temperature would be about negative 18 degrees Celsius. Everything dies. Immediately. You're welcome. So greenhouse gases are not the villain. The amount of them is what matters. Now, natural driver number 2, volcanoes. Volcanoes release CO2. Large eruptions do this in enormous quantities. But they also release sulfur dioxide, which actually cools the planet temporarily by blocking sunlight. The 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia caused the year without a summer in 1816. Crops failed across the northern hemisphere. Famine, mass migration, and Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein because she was stuck inside. One volcano, one summer, chaos for years. Now imagine the Deccan traps. Volcanic eruptions that went on for roughly a million years, around 66 million years ago. That was happening at the same time as the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. The planet basically had 2 catastrophes at once. And yet, life recovered, eventually. The point is, volcanic activity has repeatedly shifted Earth's climate over geological time. This is documented. This is real. Natural driver number 3, Earth's orbit. And this one is genuinely strange. Earth's orbit around the sun is not a perfect circle. It stretches into an ellipse over cycles of roughly 100,000 years. Earth's axial tilt changes too, between roughly 22 and 24.5 degrees over 41,000-year cycles. And Earth wobbles on its axis like a slow-motion spinning top, a cycle of about 26,000 years called precession. These 3 cycles were identified by a Serbian mathematician named Milankovitch in the early 20th century. He spent decades calculating how these orbital shifts change the distribution of sunlight reaching Earth's surface. His conclusion, these orbital cycles trigger ice ages. They are now called Milankovitch cycles. And the data from ice cores confirms it. Perfectly. The orbital cycles match the ice age timing. So ice ages are essentially predictable. They run on a cosmic clock we didn't set and can't stop, by the way. We are technically in an ice age right now, a warm period within an ice age, called an interglacial. The polar ice caps existing at all means we qualify. The last glacial maximum was about 20,000 years ago. Ice sheets covered Canada, much of Europe, and parts of Asia. Sea levels were 120 meters lower than today. You could walk from Britain to France. Then the orbital cycles shifted. The ice melted. Sea levels rose. Coastal civilizations drowned. This happened naturally, without any human involvement whatsoever. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Natural driver number 4. Ice itself. Ice is white. White reflects sunlight back into space. This is called albedo. More ice means more reflection, means less warming, means more ice. A self-reinforcing cooling loop. Less ice means darker ocean absorbs more heat, means more melting, means less ice. A self-reinforcing warming loop. Climate scientists call these feedback loops. They are extremely inconvenient. Natural driver number 5. The oceans. which store vast amounts of heat and redistribute it constantly. There is a massive system of ocean currents called the thermohaline circulation, informally known as the ocean conveyor belt. It moves warm water from the tropics toward the poles and cold water back. It regulates climate across entire continents. London is at roughly the same latitude as Calgary. London's average January temperature is about 7 degrees. Calgary's is -11. You can thank the Atlantic Ocean current for that, or blame it, depending on who you are. When this conveyor belt slowed or stopped in the past, it caused dramatic regional climate shifts very rapidly. The Younger Dryas event about 12,000 years ago saw temperatures in parts of Europe drop by as much as 10 degrees in a decade. 10 degrees. In a decade. Naturally. With no humans burning anything. Now, let's talk about CO2, because this is where natural history gets awkward. Ice cores drilled in Antarctica preserve ancient air bubbles, trapped snapshots of atmosphere going back 800,000 years. Those bubbles tell us exactly what CO2 levels were for 800,000 years, before a single factory existed. During ice ages, CO2 dropped to around 180 parts per million. During warm interglacials, it rose to about 280. Back and forth. 180 to 280. 180 to 280. For hundreds of thousands of years. Then we arrive at the Industrial Revolution around 1850. CO2 levels begin rising, past 300, past 350, past 400. Today we sit at roughly 422 parts per million, the highest in at least 800,000 years, and the rate of increase is unlike anything in the geological record. Not the level, the speed. Natural CO2 increases of the past typically unfolded over thousands to tens of thousands of years. We have added over 130 parts per million in roughly 170 years. This is geologically instantaneous. If this were a natural event, it would show up in the rock record as a catastrophe, like an asteroid impact. But wait, people say CO2 was much higher in deep geological history, and they are correct. During the Cambrian period, CO2 may have been 15 to 20 times higher than today. Life flourished, exploded actually, the Cambrian explosion. Creatures everywhere, but the sun was 3 to 5% less luminous then, and there were no cities, no coral reefs in their current form, no ice caps. The context was completely different. High CO2 then does not mean high CO2 now is fine. What matters is not the absolute level. It is what the current ecosystem is adapted to. And what the current ecosystem is adapted to is the last 10 to 12,000 years of relatively stable climate. That stable period, called the Holocene, is when agriculture began, cities formed, civilization happened. Everything humans have ever built was constructed inside a narrow climate window that natural cycles maintained. Now here's an important nuance. Medieval warm period. Around 900 to 1300 AD, Vikings settled Greenland. England grew wine grapes. It was genuinely warmer than surrounding centuries. Climate skeptics sometimes use this as evidence that natural warming is not unusual. This is true. What they often leave out is that the medieval warm period was regional, not global, and it was only about 0.5 degrees warmer in affected areas. Modern warming is global. Every region, simultaneously. That has not happened in the last 2,000 years of recorded proxy data. Then there was the Little Ice Age, 1300 to 1850. Cold enough to freeze the Thames. Cold enough to cause famines, caused by a combination of reduced solar activity, volcanic eruptions, and possibly changes in ocean circulation. Natural. Entirely natural. And it ended, also naturally, right when the Industrial Revolution began. The timing is inconvenient for those who want simple answers on either side. Scientists account for this. The natural rebound from the Little Ice Age explains some warming, not all of it. Multiple independent lines of evidence attribute the majority of warming since 1950 to human activity. The isotopic signature of CO2 in the atmosphere shows it comes from burning fossil fuels, not volcanoes, not ocean outgassing. Carbon from fossil fuels has a specific isotopic fingerprint. It is measurably different from volcanic CO2 or natural ocean release. The atmosphere has our fingerprints on it, literally, at the molecular level. Now, what about the Milankovitch cycles? Could orbital shifts explain modern warming? No. According to orbital cycles, we should be in a very slow cooling trend heading toward the next glaciation. We are moving in the opposite direction, against the current orbital forcing. That is the anomaly. Solar activity has actually been slightly declining since the 1980s. If the sun were driving modern warming, it would be cooling. It is not cooling. It is warming faster than at any measurable point in the last 2,000 years. So, is modern climate change different from past natural changes? The honest answer is yes, meaningfully so. The climate has always changed. That is not in dispute. But always changed and we made it change faster are not mutually exclusive. Earthquakes happen naturally. That doesn't mean you can't cause one by mining. Fires happen naturally. That doesn't mean arson isn't real. The planet has survived worse than us. That is completely true. The planet will be fine. Eventually. In geological time. We, however, are not geological. Our agriculture, our coastlines, our water supplies, our species distribution, all adapted to the Holocene stability. When that stability shifts faster than organisms can adapt, things go extinct. That has also happened before. Many times. The Permian extinction 252 million years ago killed 96% of marine species and 70% of land species. It was triggered by volcanic CO2 release over about 60,000 years, which is fast for geology. We are adding CO2 at a rate potentially 10 times faster than the Permian extinction event. Let that sit for a moment. This is not a political statement. It is a physical one. CO2 does not check your voter registration before trapping heat. Physics is not ideologically flexible. The natural history of Earth's climate is extraordinary, violent, chaotic, beautiful in its indifference. And yes, it has changed before, dramatically, but never this fast while humans have been depending on it. So the next time someone says the climate has always changed, therefore we shouldn't worry. Ask them if they'd jump off a cliff because gravity existed before humans did. The planet has a 4.5 billion year track record of surviving catastrophe. Our track record is about 12,000 years of agriculture and roughly 300 years of industry. The question was never whether Earth would survive. It always will. The question is whether we will, and whether we'd like to find out the hard way. Earth doesn't need saving. It's doing fine. We might be the ones who need saving.